Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. At AM 630. WMAL.
8-7, happy Monday morning to you. You know, Brian, I think that instant oatmeal is one of the greatest things that's ever been invented.
Okay.
I just had some. It's pretty good stuff.
I'm not a big oatmeal guy. I'd much rather have Cheerios or Raisin Bran.
I'm telling you, I feel better already. And that means that I'm now ready for our next guest, who is ARTUR Davis. Now, he was a member of Congress, the 7th Congressional District of the state of Alabama. He was a Democrat. He was one of the early supporters of Barack Obama, and of late has decided he's going to not be a Democrat anymore. He's moving to the Republican Party. He's moving from Alabama to Virginia. And he has said some things about how he's been sort of disappointed in the president's policies. Congressman, how are you today?
Good morning. Good to talk to you. I'm not sure I share your enthusiasm for oatmeal, but good to talk to you anyway.
Listen, I tell you, man, to get you going, get you through the day, get you through the morning. Hey, listen, let's talk about, first of all, you were an early backer of Barack Obama. Yeah. You were one of the first outside of Chicago to say this man should be president of the United States. What is it that you saw then that you liked, and what has happened since then that has turned you against him?
No, I think it's a great question. 4 years ago, I was one of the people who really believed that if Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, that it would change two things. It would change the way we talk to each other in this country, and it would also change the way we thought about each other. I thought that was very important. The last decade was an incredibly polarized one, incredible amount of cynicism and disillusionment with American politics, and the Obama campaign and Obama presidency, I thought, had the potential to change that. 4 years later, we're more divided than we were 4 years ago. We're more fractured, and I think, frankly, even most of the president's most ardent defenders would say that he hasn't been able to overcome the various forces that he promised he would overcome in terms of political gridlock 4 years ago. Now, you can point to, obviously, all kinds of policy specifics. Clearly, the economic policies haven't worked. I didn't support the president's health care law, haven't supported a lot of the president's specific initiatives in the last several years. But, the last point that I would make is, this isn't just about Barack Obama from my standpoint. Well, win or lose, this is the last year Barack Obama will be on a ballot because he can't run for a third term even if reelected. For me, this is about sitting back and looking at the things that people are debating and talking about, whether they're in your audience, around the dinner table, or just around the country, and feeling that on most of those issues today, my views and my opinions and my vision for the country lines up more with Republicans than Democrats.
Well, where is the Democratic Party today? Have they gone way too far to the left? And can you give examples of where you think they've gone too far to the left?
I think the party has gone too far to the left, but to make that specific to people, I think there's a group of people in the Democratic Party, in fact, unfortunately, a group who run the Democratic Party, who no longer think it's important to talk about entrepreneurship and growth and figuring out a way to create a stronger economy in this country. I think people talk about the economic margins. They talk about what you have to do to close the safety net and to secure it. They talk about protecting the entitlement programs. But I don't hear enough of a conversation in the Democratic Party about building a strong, secure economic future that's going to break us out of this mess in terms of slow job creation, that's going to really break us out of the incredibly poor performance our schools are having on international tests and performance vis-a-vis the rest of the world. We've got to have leadership, I think, in Washington, D.C. that gets us past this stale conversation that I think is happening in the Democratic Party, where there's more time spent defending and litigating how we got here instead of explaining how we go forward.
All right, so you've been a Democrat all of your life, and now you've decided to walk away from that party and become a Republican. That has got to be a really, really gut-wrenching decision.
Well, it certainly is not a light decision, and it's not one that came overnight. I've seen people in the past switch parties out of nowhere. I've never been a big fan of that. I've seen people win election as one thing and then a few weeks later switch parties. I've never been a big fan of that. I've seen people switch parties right before filing deadlines to avoid a primary challenge. Never been a big fan of any of that. I'm not in public office now. I was defeated in my last race 2 years ago, and the benefit of being defeated, the benefit of being on the sidelines, is you get a chance to think in a systematic kind of way about what's right and what's wrong, about what policies are working. And as you engage in that thought process, you're not required to have to tout a party line. You're not required to have to balance what you say against what the different interest groups in your party have to say. So having that 2 years to be reflective about politics and policy, and frankly having that 2 years to look back at the near decade I spent in the United States Congress representing the state of Alabama, has given me an opportunity, again, to assess what's worked and what hasn't worked. Growing the government dramatically and throwing a lot of money at our problems hasn't worked. It hasn't worked in terms of the core interests Democrats have, alleviating poverty and reducing inequality. It hasn't worked in terms of the core interests many Republicans talk about, growing prosperity and expanding the base of people who are upper middle class. Whatever your economic goal, whatever you really care about, throwing money at the problem and growing government hasn't worked.
Right.
It's become increasingly clear.
We don't have a lot of time left, but there have been some rumors out there that you might run for office again, perhaps in Virginia, maybe against Jerry Connolly. Is that true? Are you thinking about that, and why Virginia?
Well, we've been living in Virginia since December 2010. Again, that's not something that just happened yesterday. Been here for a year and a half now. I've had people encourage me to run for Congress in Northern Virginia. It's something I may look at in the next several years. Obviously, as we continue to grow and solidify our roots in this community, as we learn more about the problems of Northern Virginia, and as I learn more about the people who are involved in politics and the political issues in this region, it may be something I end up doing, whether it's the Congress or the legislature in 2015. I haven't made a decision in that regard. It may be that I never see a pathway to run for office here, and that's okay if it works out that way.
Okay.
But it's a wonderfully dynamic and vibrant state, and we enjoy living here.
All right. Congressman Artur Davis, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.